All right, everyone. Welcome back to Grace Accept Evolved with James and Ray. How are you doing today, James?
I am doing pretty good, Ray. How about yourself?
Nice. I'm doing good as well. I was just, I feel like a broken record lately is being like, it's so hot down
Ah,
here in the South. Delivering mail today, there were times I got in my car and I'm like, how do you even breathe this hot air? So
ah.
warm outside. But other than that, I've had a lot of interesting things going on the past week. And yeah, I'm ready to get into this podcast today for sure.
Sweet, sweet. Well, I shall let you guide the way. I will mention, again, hello everybody to the audience and listeners. So last time, I'm not sure where you want to start, but last time you had
Mm.
the topic of family. Are we going back in that direction, or is there a different topic of series of events that's coming up?
We can and yeah, I would like to talk about the other series of events that's coming up. But yeah, I do think that we should start there because I did kind of leave us on that note on the last episode. So
Okay.
luckily, I am glad that we tabled it for this episode
Hmm.
because
Okay.
a lot of energy has dissipated and there is not as much excitement around it, if that makes sense. It's like I can see it from a few different perspectives, and I don't know if anybody's listening and if this happens to you, James, but like when things are happening in the moment, sometimes you're very single focused,
Hmm.
or I'll say I am very single focused and like what my experience is, how I experienced it, and what I want to say, what I want to do.
Hmm.
And as the energy starts to like dissipate and the situation isn't as in your face as much as it was a week before or even a few days
Uh-huh.
before, you're like, okay, how did I handle that situation? Wasn't in alignment with who I want to be. How can I do better? What did I learn? Um, and and all those things. So I don't know. How do you feel whenever like situations that are very exciting? Is that kind of how you feel too? Like,
It stays with me for a while until there's some sort of resolution. Yeah. It tends to stay with me for a little bit
okay,
longer. Yeah.
okay, all right, yeah. I will say, and I feel like I need to take notes so I don't get too sidetracked. But like one
Uh-huh.
of my values is peace. Peace is my anchor. So anytime I find myself just getting caught up in the waves of life, peace has been a returning word for me for probably the past 2 years or so.
Uh-huh.
And whenever I'm not, and it's not that my goal is to achieve peace all the time. It's mostly when I am coming up against a situation that I might think or feel like it's kind of robbed me of my peace or it's disrupted my peace. With peace being my anchor, I pray and I ask, universe, what can I do to restore my peace? Is there something that's being triggered within me that I need to look more closely at? Or is this really a situation that I should not be having in my life? Like,
Mm.
is that why my peace is getting disrupted? So I think sometimes we make things so black and white, and it could be a little bit of both. Like sometimes my peace is being disrupted because a boundary is being overstepped, and it's a signal that I need to set a boundary or need to have a conversation. And so that's why I pray a lot, because it's always something different, and it could be actually multiple things.
Mm.
I need to set a boundary, and maybe I'm also not seeing something from the perspective of the other person involved at the moment,
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
if I can just extend understanding and some compassion, then also my peace wouldn't can be restored. Does that make
Mm.
sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So because I have that anchor word, I would say that I do rebound a lot, pretty quickly from situations when I'm not feeling peaceful, at least faster than I used to. Um,
Mhm.
so what we left off with was me having a conversation with a friend, I believe. And, I just got off a weekend with my family, at a family reunion over the holiday. And it was so sweet. It was like I felt like I was meeting all these people in my family that I like re-meeting them because we hadn't seen each other in about 10 years. And when they would ask me what I do, I would never tell them, oh, I have a podcast where I talk about spirituality and, starting a new podcast and I have clients and I do readings. I told them, oh, I'm a mail carrier. Yeah, I carry mail. That's it. And go home and watch TV. That's a lie. That was a straight up lie. And it's because my whole family is like Southern Baptist. Like that is the origin on my mom's side.
Now, may I interject for a second? Now, would you consider that being a partial truth? Is that a partial truth?
What?
Because you said that it's a lie that you deliver mail and you watch television.
Yeah, it's a part. Yeah.
Okay. That's all I want.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and part of me not telling the full story felt like I was lying, if that makes sense. And I didn't feel safe enough or that these people would love me if I told them the full truth, the whole picture of who I am. And it was an interesting sensation because a lot of these people I hadn't seen in 10 years and they weren't in my life before, but all of a sudden I was very sad and thinking that I could lose them again if they really found out who I was. Very interesting sensation. So I had such a emotional hangover after that, not because they know anything about me, but it brought up new fears that they would find out. And this is already a fear I have. Not that my mom and sister don't know what I do. It's like they ignore it. And I hate to compare it this way, but I don't know how else to compare it. But it's like being in a family where your family doesn't want you to be gay. So they just don't talk about you being gay. They just they let you come over and they say nice things to you, but they just try to ignore that that you have this thing that they didn't raise you to be. And it feels like you're never allowed to be fully who you are in these situations. And it also takes me a while to rebound from these situations and feel fully expressive within myself in my actual communities that I'm building, because there's new fears unlocked or new fears came back up to where I do try to hide and I try not to be who I am so that people love me. So it takes me like a good few days or even like a couple weeks to even want to do like my readings and like my stuff anymore because I get afraid of being found out and all that. So yeah, that happened.
Yeah, that's pretty deep. Or at least deeper than I anticipated when you originally brought up the topic. Yeah, it's pretty deep.
Yeah. And yeah, I don't know what else to say about it because now it's just like I always just deal with it by not talking to them about it. I always find other things to talk about. That's my go-to. Wow. And I find ways to connect with them on different levels and different topics. And I just try to stay away from those topics. That's just what I do.
Wow. And I guess it's interesting because it makes me think of like, okay, when I go into a social setting, right? And someone asks me what I do. In my head, and and at least that's what anywho, in my head, usually I'm thinking somebody is asking me, how do I generate money? In most scenarios, because I could say, I can give an answer about volunteering. I can give an answer about hosting meditations. But as soon as I say something about a specific task that might be related to a contract or something, that clicks in the brain of money, that makes it clear, like, oh, that's a money thing, then there seems to be like a sense of satisfaction or gratification of, oh, I get how this person is a professional, or I get how this person is. It really just generates money. I don't even have to say professional. And so it's like, actually, I just had this happen the other day because I went to a conference for an organization that I've been volunteering with. Um, I guess almost 5 years. Yeah, about 5 years. And they recently had a position come up, a part-time position come up. And I was like, oh, well, that'd be kind of cool that I can get a position in this organization to basically get paid to do stuff I would do for free or that I have been doing for free for 5 years. And so I went, so as a part of this position that I got, that I received, me and the founder attended a conference Wednesday. I think it was Wednesday. And then right after that, I went to a cafe that I normally go to, and the owner of that cafe was behind the register, behind the counter, and asked me where I was coming from because I was dressed up. Usually I'm in casual. And so, anywho, she asked me, "Oh, where are you coming from?" And I told her about the conference. She was like, "Oh, I'm not." She was familiar with the conference and wasn't sure why she didn't get an invite this year. And then she finally asked me, "Well, what do I do?" And I was like, "Well, I work with this organization." Well, actually, I said I work with this organization, which is why I was at the conference. And then I told her, a couple other things. And then I said, the one thing that I've been doing for 7 years, that traditionally has been the breadwinner or bringing in money. But the whole thing is I've been working 2-3 years to transition out of that to do more things that I love to generate money, which was the whole purpose of me taking that position. I was like, oh, yeah, I would do this for free, and I have been doing it for free. Well, I might as well, get a paid position with the organization. And so, and I have one other organization too that I've been volunteering with since they were founded. And now fortunately, we get paid, I get paid to participate with that organization. And so in my mind, it's like this thing of, there's this maturation of me gradually like creating a lifestyle that supports my passions. And so actually my contract work that I've been doing for 7 years, I've been phasing that out intentionally for the past definitely 2 years, maybe almost 3 years. There's been a process of phasing that out and, finding other ways to support myself. And, but yeah, when I said the contract work, I could see in her eyes, like the bell went off and it was like, oh, okay, this person is doing this and this is how they support themselves, or this is whatever category or thing she put me in. And I would say for the first time in my head, it didn't feel all the way right. It didn't feel accurate to say it because it's really not true. Like I have 2 other ways that I support myself. I have 1, 2, 3 other projects I'm working on that'll generate revenue within the next 3 or 6 months. So let's just say 6 months. Be in a positive flow. And then on top of that, investments or all these other things or whatever. And so it's like, which, those are long term and eventually those will pay off. But those are all things that I've done. And that's a part of my activities, my routine activities that I'm working on that support, you know what I mean? That like is my lifestyle. So yeah, so it was quite interesting so I thought I started to think, how would I describe myself? Like, if someone asked me that question again, what answers do I want to give, or what answers resonate the strongest?
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's been on my brain recently of what answers do resonate the strongest, because I there's no way for me to go through a list of all the things that I do that contribute to my life and my, all the roles that I play in life or in the public. Yeah. So actually, I still have I have a little bit of but there's still a question mark of, okay, what is my upcoming answer that resonates the strongest, and that, and that's the most accurate.
Very cool. Yeah. And so that's just proof that some of us, like more of us than just me, obviously, is struggling with feeling and knowing that that's not the complete picture of us. Because actually, I do try to work on that. I do try not to define myself just as my job. When people ask me, "Oh, what do you do?" I do like to say a lot of times, well, I do yoga very frequently. I like to go for walks and stuff. And, you know, I would love to say, like, when I thought to that, because I do make money being
Right.
a reader and a spiritual coach. So I wanted to be like, yeah, I'm a mail carrier in the morning. And then I work a lot in the afternoon to build my spiritual coaching business.
Right.
But I
Right.
just left that out and said that I watch TV, which is not true. I mean, sometimes it
Ah,
is. I do that to relax a lot and I do enjoy television. And, it's something that I do. You're right about that. It's some truth, but yeah, I'm working very hard to build a business for myself that, like, I just have this feeling, which it's weird to me, but it's true, that had I told them, "Oh, I'm a youth leader," they would be like, "Oh my gosh, that's so cool." But if I
uh-huh,
said, "Yeah, I'm a spiritual coach and I do readings every afternoon," they'd be like, "Excuse me? What?"
uh-huh.
They may not talk to me for the rest of
Ah,
the gathering, just
interesting.
to avoid conflict and or whatever they want to say or
Oh,
whatever. So,
yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. Yeah,
mhm.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So because I've actually said before, when I quit my job back in the September of 2021,
Mm-hmm.
that's when I started to really hone in on who I am as a person. Because without your job, you don't really people you're right. It's not like socially acceptable when people ask you, "What do you do?" They're not asking you who you are. They're asking you how you make money. That's
Mm-hmm.
supposed I guess that's the most important question to ask person. How do you make money in this world? Like as if that defines you, but it does define so many people. And yeah, I just back then is when I just started to really hone in on who I am. And I wish I told people I want people to ask me who I'm being,
Uh,
or what do I want to be, or yeah, who are you being today? And it's just not a normal question. And I don't ask people that, but I think it's a more interesting question.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I think I feel or think on in my end, it's an internal thing in my own head, right? Because again, if I define it for myself, or I'm getting to the point of defining it for myself, because again, my plan, and excuse me, audience or listeners, I'm just going to talk this out. I don't have a clear thought in my head at the moment, or a clear direction of where this is going at the moment. Um, is I'm still more so thinking of like okay, so if someone asks me what I do, and if they ask me about my occupation that generates, how I support my occupation, it's still kind of asking about my character or my belief systems or where do I spend most of my time and what I'm passionate about and this, that, the third. At least that's what I'm cultivating and that's what I'm working to cultivate in my head. Like I could say, oh, well, I work, in a different industry that has no correlation to anything that I love. Um, but truly I am working in a lot of areas or arenas or industries or places that I am passionate about. So I guess again, I
So
still
that's what
have to
I
get I still have to get more anchored and centered in my own definition of what is my public, not public persona, but what is my public answer, if that makes sense. Because I guess that's yeah, because there has to be some type of public answer. But then obviously as I get into deeper conversations or if I get into an extended conversation with someone, then that's when it would probably open up to talk about more different roles or different activities or different projects. Or if this person says, well, hey, like for instance, if this person says, hey, I'm into real estate, and then I'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, I blah, 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 blah. Or this person says, hey, I'm into certain currency or coins, digital currency, or the metaverse, or investment, stocks and that sort of thing. And I'm like, oh, well, me too, blah, 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 blah. And so so I'm still forming at myself of like, what is that public initial response answer that I feel incongruent, that feels accurate. And I get you might be saying something different because it sounds like you have an accurate answer. There's just a level of comfort or level, at least what I'm picking up on, there's a certain level of comfort or discomfort depending on the environment with your family.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like you sense it somehow, some way too. I wouldn't say maybe it wasn't discomfort, but you sensed that maybe you hadn't told the whole truth, or like or you kind of got challenged a little bit. Like, is that really my answer? Is that really how I would describe what I'm doing?
It was more of like once she heard the contract piece, there was more satisfaction because there was money behind it.
Oh, did you? Oh, so you did tell her the other piece?
Oh, yeah. I said,
I must have. Okay,
I work with this organization, and I said I host a meditation group, and I do, host meditations and stuff like that. But as soon as I said, oh, I do this contract work, she was like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. And when you said
right? She was like, okay, get out of here with all that. What do you really do?
Right.
But I mean, she didn't say that, but that's there was contentment when I said contract, talked about the contract work.
And I think I noticed that you said too, did you and I don't know if this was directly about your job, the one that you like the contract work, but I think you said something about like one that has nothing to do with like, what'd you say? One that has nothing to do with.
Oh, I said if I can't remember the context that I used it, but I said something about if I worked in an industry that had nothing to do with anything I was passionate about.
Okay. Do you feel like your industry, your contract work is what you're passionate about?
Not anymore. No.
Mm-hmm. Which is how I feel about my job. I love my job for the security and I appreciate it and I love the certainty of it. And so there are parts of it that work for me and I don't plan on quitting this one anytime soon. But that's how I feel. And that's why I felt kind of empty when I told them that answer, because it really didn't reflect any of my values or my character, or it showed such a short view of my values and my character that I just didn't feel like I could be as honest as I wanted to be about more aspects of my character. Because you hear someone's a mail carrier. What does that tell you about me? That I don't know. There's parts of it that I thrive at because I'm a very committed person. It's a job you have to do 6 days a week. You have to wake up in the morning. You have to be disciplined. You have to be good with numbers. Like there's so many parts of the job that work for me, but I don't think unless you do the job that that those are the characteristics that I have necessarily, or those are my values. So that's what it was. It's like, I don't want people walking around thinking that all I care about or all I am is a mail carrier.
Right.
Years ago, before I even quit this job, which I think is what helped me quit the job prior, it's because I actually thought it was funny when I would tell people that I was a mail carrier. I thought it was like a character. I started playing the part more, and I would be like, oh yeah, like I'm your local mail lady. I don't know. I say that as a way to be like, it's a character. It's just something I play for a few hours a day. And then I go home and I'm a totally different person. Because luckily I don't have a job. That part of my job I don't have to take home with me. I don't know what I would do. And this part, sometimes it gets hard to just have your work at home anyways, because sometimes you don't ever feel like you can take a break from it. So I'm very lucky in that way. But yeah, I find it funny whenever like people just think I'm a mail lady. That's funny to me. But and I don't know, sometimes I can't believe that I'm a mail lady. I'm like, I'm not a mail lady. It's so weird to think about, but I am. I've been doing it for 11 years.
Yeah.
Maybe 12. I don't remember. Something like that.
And see, my thing is about the conversation is, I guess it's my own awareness, because right now the primary reason I would say it is because it is in this moment, it is bringing in the most revenue and supports my lifestyle.
Yeah.
If it was something else that I was doing that brought in more money and like there was less dependency on the contract work in this moment, which I do feel is happening in the near future, the future. I wouldn't bring up the other thing. I mean, I wouldn't even be doing it. So I guess that's kind of like the discourse. If it wasn't bringing in the money, I wouldn't feel a need to bring it up because I wouldn't be doing it.
You
And
say that, and it's
you know what I'm
curious
saying?
to me because I actually have heard stories where people, like when they do start doing their passion projects, like let's just go for a blogger. There's a blogger that I know that's blown up like a lot, and
Mm-hmm.
she's had hard moments in the past few years with the media as well. But she used to say when like her business was bringing in thousands of dollars a month, and when people were asking her what she did, she would just say, "Oh, I have a little blog." When she was
Mm-hmm.
like, she had employees, she had like money coming in, and she would describe it as like something little. It was something she didn't like to talk about, but that was her main source of income. I think that's
Uh,
really interesting. I don't go around talking about my podcast, actually, probably because it's not generating money. Like I make some money off of it, like recently I have, but that's been a year and a half.
all right.
And so I don't tell people about, there's very rare, very few times, few
You
far
get
between times that I tell people about my podcast.
you get what I'm saying? Like there is some weird, I don't know, at least in my case, there is this weird internal or intrinsic correlation to, again, if like say, okay, if investment real estate was at in this moment, at some point it will, bring in money. But if my activities in real estate was bringing in money and supporting my lifestyle right now, I probably would just say I'm an investor. Or if any of my investments had already kicked back and returned and it was, enough to a point to where it support my lifestyle, I'd be like, oh, I'm just an investor. Because again, it'll be this generic, it'll be the truth, and it'll be answering what that person is saying. It just so happens, and I'm, now this is getting vulnerable or personal or whatever. Yeah, there is a little bit of frustration that, oh, I'm still doing this other occupation, or I'm still doing this contract work, and that's the breadwinner. I mean, let's say 50-50. There's less frustration than it used to be because right now, most of that money is like helping support me create these other streams of revenue,
Yeah.
these other streams of income. And so actually, so even when I told her, and I'm going back, listeners, to the lady at the coffee shop owner, I didn't feel as bad, or as it was more of like a self thing, not a self worth, but I didn't feel as bad as I used to feel. I didn't feel as down or something as I used to feel in the past. Like I did feel okay. I was like, okay, she's going to see me as, in her head, I probably just got stapled or cataloged as an invest, as this person that
Contract
does this
worker.
contract work. And and at some point in the moment, I felt a little bit off, and it made me reflect. But I felt okay because I was like, oh, it's temporary. Even if it wasn't temporary, but still, all the other stuff that I'm doing is temporary because or even if it's temporary, it's helping me along the way. Like it's helping me, like in a year, 2 years, or however many years from now, it'll be a part of my journey. It'll be a part of my story. And the answer will be different, in the future. It just so happens that the answer that is a part of the answer right now. Yeah. So, I think that's all I have to say about it at this moment.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you something about it, but
Mhm.
I forgot. This is why I need to take notes because I was gonna really ask you something, but that's okay.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I think that was some quality sharing there.
Yeah.
Oh, this is what I was gonna say. If and this is something that we can all think about in our lives right now, like maybe in the future, maybe after you turn the episode off. I hope something about this makes me feel like I can carry a little bit more after this episode. But something came to me. It was like, what would our life look like if we did talk more about the things that we like to do? Like we just never know what people are into, that maybe we would have a connection with someone, or like I said, I don't talk about my podcast so much. Maybe people would ask me to, what's your podcast? Like sometimes the reason why I don't is because I don't want them to ask that, because I feel people, if I just say I have a podcast, they might think that they now feel obligated to go follow it, which is not what I want, So that's a big reason. But also maybe more people would want to check it out if I talked about it more.
Uh-huh.
And perhaps I'm missing opportunities to connect with people that are want to be in my community, people that I can network with, maybe even potential investors or like people that want to take you on to projects, James. If you like
Yeah.
mentioned that that you're an entrepreneur and like all the umbrellas and like the
Right.
avenues and that's why I said maybe we can think about this if you are listening today and that resonates. I know it's something that I want to think about a little bit after this. I hope I remember this
Yeah.
conversation because I want to remember that like I actually could be missing out on opportunities by
Mm.
not speaking the truth. And actually I thought about that after the reunion. I was like, what if there are more people in my family that
Yeah.
also don't align with the values, but they're also afraid to speak up because it's so heavily saturated with a Southern Baptist belief that if I said something, they would be like, oh my gosh, you too, thank God. Like, you want to go talk in a corner about how
Right.
this feels to be here with like Christian music being played and like people arguing about the Bible. It was interesting, man. Like I was
Okay.
just like, wow. And they were it was interesting. So yeah, like, and I did think about that. I was like, I think there was a few people there that also maybe feel the same way that I do, but they would never say it out loud.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it does bring up opportunity for um shifts, or just different types of conversations or different types of connections.
Yeah.
Uh because again, it's something. Yeah, I think it's something to be talked about or discussed, or to be shared, just depending on what it is. Obviously there's certain activities um that sometimes I don't speak about just because or I speak about it generically, unless again someone shows an interest or an indication that, yeah, it really shows an interest. So I'll mention something lightly, but usually, um, yeah, I won't go into detail unless someone like shows interest or um,
But you still speak about it though, right? Am I hearing that right?
yeah, 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 yeah. Well,
Okay.
the other thing I was thinking about is that it also comes with confidence and comfort over time.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, like, okay, so I host meditations, locally. And so, or regionally, let's just say regionally. And at one point, I have so for listeners, I've, you know, spent 6 months in Australia, and I have an ex that, a previous partner that lives there, but now she's moved on. I said moved on, but she has a husband, and they live between the States and Australia. And so, but anywho, at one point, previously when she knew I did meditations, because we're still friends, she asked me, it's just like, oh, you could come here and do something, with organizations, because, she held a quality position with a company or two uh, in Sydney. And so she was like, oh, you can come. I can easily find your position doing meditation or doing just some type of, not healing work, but I can't think of the title right now. And I realized, and I sent her this message recently, a part of me wasn't ready. Like I had never acted on it. And probably because I wasn't going to uproot my life I didn't feel the call to uproot my life to a different country at that time. Even though that sounded like again, fantabulous opportunity. But I mentioned to her in a message recently, like, I needed more time. Like
Mm.
I needed more experience to build my own confidence to wear this title, or to carry the title, or carry that whole moniker that comes with it, as far as like the conversations and the lifestyle, and even the ability, like, even though, there's still a little bit of nervousness now, but I am more confident that somebody put me in any space, like, we can have a meditative experience, or at least I can share techniques and tools um, that might lead to someone having a meditative experience. And so at that time, yeah, I mean, I would have worked through it, but still I was nervous. And the other thing it made me think about was, I really didn't share much about like my meditations. Like, people knew I did the meditation. I shared it a little bit, But it was more recent, I would say, in the past like year and a half that I've started marketing more or sharing it more or putting flyers out. And that's, come with encouragement from people who attend and other people want to share it and stuff like that. And so, yeah, I do feel way more. It's almost like that thing of when they say you do something for 10,000 hours or some statement like that. There is a
10,000
lot
hours of
more.
mastery.
There's a lot more comfort and confidence and people even saying that name of like, oh, he hosts meditations or, oh, he's going to do a meditation, this, that, and the third. And so I will say I am more comfortable saying that way more now than I was a few years ago. Just because there's that never mind, I'm about to say that statement about like I'm okay with all the smoke or something like that. Well, there's a term, all the smoke. And so the smoke is we're not going to break this down for our listeners. But anywho, that's saying all the stuff that comes with it. So if somebody
you don't want this smoke.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
So it's like saying that, yeah, all the conversations, the inquiries, I feel like I've not studied enough because studying is continuous, but there have been enough experiences that I can I can share this, I can share that, and I feel confident about it. So even when answering the person at the coffee shop, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I host meditations. And that's an easy, natural thing to roll off my tongue because I've done it enough and it's enough in my lifestyle and in my awareness and even, amongst the community or people or family or whomever that, yeah, that's who I am. It's not even, there's no way of really hiding it, like talking about it. And so that's taken time. And I guess to bring it in too, even with the talking about the contract piece, yeah, it doesn't resonate as much. I think before when I would say it and I didn't want to say it, it was more of an angst and frustration of like, oh, I do this, but I really don't want to do it. And it's still a little bit there, but yeah, there was less confidence about the other stuff than there is about, falling back on that. So yeah. Cool.
Very interesting. Very interesting. So I can go ahead and also share, not to make this, let's ask, because I know I said I had two parts, but let's make sure, let's see what you got going on. Anything you want to share?
I don't have too much. I'm tired, but I'm not tired. What I am is, I'm working at shifting perspectives. And so like right now, I won't go too much into it, but it's like I think I may have shared this before, but if I haven't, being like ultra active is new for me. And so it feels like exercise. And so lately, a lot of activity, a lot of events, a lot of just different happenings. It can feel like resistance, or it can feel like
I was just about to ask you that.
Yeah, it can feel like a resistance, or it can feel like a struggle, or or it could feel like just a lot. And so I feel like those type of things builds muscle. It builds character. At least in my case, that's where that's the part of the journey of where I'm at. And so that's about all I really got to share about it, is finding that not motivation, but having accessing the strength, accessing the energy to move and do and grow. That's probably the best thing. Accessing that strength and that energy to continue the growth and continue the growth. Yeah.
I'll say this to the resistance. I feel that a lot in my life, like a lot. Like yesterday I hosted a workshop, and before I typed it up, I was like, I do not want to host this workshop. But then when I just started typing up the notes for it, I'm like, oh my gosh, this workshop's going to be so good. And then when I got sat down, I was so excited to be there, and it was a great workshop. It was great.
Oh, sweet.
So it's so interesting. I just want to say that, because even today when I was like, I had to shower and I was like, oh, I need a shower. I need to wash my hair. So part of me was like, I've thought it to myself, and I hate to admit it, but it's like I've thought like, man, do we have to record this podcast today? Just to be honest. And, I'm like, this is my commitment. And typically when I sit down to do it, it doesn't feel as much of a thing as when I sit down to do it. So, and I also heard a quote yesterday. I think it was yesterday. They were like, the more scared you are and the more resistance you feel, the more it probably matters, because there is something at stake. There's probably a change occurring, because if you automatically wanted to do it, then it's something you've probably already been doing. That's why your brain doesn't put the brakes on it. Like, your brain never well, at least for me, I don't know what you do. What's your morning routine, James, where like your brain probably doesn't be like, oh, James, do you really want to do those journaling pages this morning? Or, certain things in our, like, and when I go get a cup of coffee, I'm not like, oh, Ray, you think you really want that cup of coffee? It's what I do every day. So anything that's new to the routine, your brain's going to pump the brakes. It's like, why are we doing this? What's going on here? Like, and there's probably some change or growth occurring as well, whether it's on a belief level or even a time schedule level, an activity level, where like our brain's like, do I really want to do this? Because I would rather just sit and ponder for a few seconds or take a nap, something. So just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, I totally agree and resonate with the whole transformation, or I guess that's the word, change or transformation. It's like, yeah, breaking through a mold or breaking through a breakthrough.
And a routine. Yeah.
Well, just whatever breakthrough, especially even for the listeners, that they may see or desire or are experiencing. It's like that. Yeah, there can be that push of, one might view it as push back, or one may view it as a push forward, or that tension or that tug and pull of the happens before breakthrough. And so if and obviously these are things that I'm learning or experiencing in real time, because it is like, oh my gosh, like I said, there's a couple of projects going on, and literally to come out on the other side of that, or to break through certain thresholds, it requires a certain level of strength. And I guess this is something I could talk about, something that resonated the other day. So I either saw a quote or watched a video talking about mental toughness. And so I never had really thought about that much, about, oh yeah, mental toughness having mental strength is a thing that carries people through situations, that carries people through moments, carries people through new levels or thresholds or experiences in life. And just having that mental toughness or fortitude, one might, or I might also call it, is a skill, or it is a muscle to be developed or to be focused on. It's like, oh, I'm going to be mentally strong. And so, and I guess it was a talk, because they were also talking about how most challenges or struggles or resistance happens in the mind. Like a lot of it is mental, and the narratives and the stories and the thoughts and the this, that, and the third. So to have a topic or a situation or a passion in life, to be like, oh, okay, I'm going to focus on this. I'm going to put my mental energy and my mental awareness and fortitude in on this particular goal or task. And I'm going to, it's, until it's done. Like there's not even a question about it until the mission is complete, or until this phase or this task is complete. And so that's been a big part, recently as well. Cause again, like I said, I have variety of opportunities of things happening and going on, and usually I might only focus on one, but it just so happens that I'm like going with the flow and doing multiple tasks at one time. Not at one time, because I don't believe in multitasking like that, but I'm just connected or involved in multiple different projects or tasks, and it all feels beneficial and fulfilling. It's just, again, it requires some mental toughness to do something new or access a new space.
Yeah.
And and usually, and I mean, even with some of the people that I'm working with, or even that are part of some of these projects, it's like, yeah, people break down. And so it's funny, I was like having this talk with a family member recently,
Yeah.
because and it was just like, I can see it and I can get it and I grasp it. It just like, and I even see where, these are spaces I've been in before. It's just and at the same time, I can tell like I'm just somewhere different right now. And
Yeah.
so it's like, I still gotta keep focused. I gotta keep moving. I gotta keep doing what I'm doing and keep going, really. Um, because there are, for whatever suffering that this person is going through, there are answers, there are a way out, there are
Mm.
solutions. It's just that this person, and I'm just speaking, specifically for, just the areas that I'm talking about, or in my life experience, like one or two people who are having these like mental, are having these struggles or these issues. um they are answers and solutions, but like they can't even hear it, because
Mm.
because of the breakdown that's taking place. And so again, having a mental breakdown, again, I get it, or having some hiccups, or having obstacles in life. And actually, I guess this is another thing too, that we might pivot into. But yeah, having obstacles in life, that's normal. And
Yeah.
I probably could use another word for it, but it's normal. And so I'm not quite sure. It took me a while to feel prepared for obstacles, or to feel that I could make it through certain obstacles. And even now, like I said, it's taken like, developing a stronger mental fortitude to make it through the own obstacles in my own head, which I'm not necessarily giving too much energy into, but I might like, catch it when things go in that direction. Or anywho, or even just trust, surrender, whatever anyone wants to call, but um yeah, it's gonna happen. Or it's happening. And so yeah. So that's more of when I was talking about tiredness or this, that, and the third, it's still, even that word tiredness is not really, it's still more like um a refreshing thing taking place to continue forward and then move forward. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I wanted to, whenever you were just talking about mental toughness, when you first said it, I was so surprised that is this like the first time you said is like one of the first times you've thought about that?
Uh, yeah, no, I mean, not thought about it, but this is probably the first time we've talked about it. Yeah.
Well, I've like when I was in high school, probably even middle school as well, the coach I had, the coach I had always was like, you need to be mentally tough. Like
Mm.
you're being mentally weak right now. You're letting yourself get out of the game. Like that's all you'll say.
Wow.
But yeah,
Yeah.
he would call me out. He's like, you're not in the game anymore. Like get mentally tough. And like he just used to yell like, and I love this person, but it's him that whenever I do feel as if I'm when I am checking out of a task, I do think about that term because it's true. And also I wanted to mention when you're talking about shifting perspective this past week on I've been listening to a lot of Super Soul Sunday,
Mm.
and Oprah did one with Deepak Chopra, and he talked about how he went to a monastery, I think in India, uh, and the monk that was his head monk or was like half his age, and I think it was like just a couple, very semi recent within the last 10 years or so, if I had to tell by the, so he'd been doing his work for a long time is what I'm trying to get at. And he was at the monastery and he was walking somewhere barefoot, and and the monk, I think, was like, and I'm all paraphrasing, if y'all want to go listen to the episode, it's on Super Soul Sunday with Deepak Chopra. But I think the monk asked Deepak, how are you feeling? He's like, well, my feet hurt because we're walking on gravel. He said, that's interesting. And it's true. But the thing is like, it only hurts. The foot that hurts is the one that's on the ground, and the one that's up doesn't hurt. Focus on that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I've been thinking, I mean, it was a perfect time for me to hear that term or that story, because also in my life, I've been thinking about the stories I tell myself, and, kind of like what you said, but, I was talking to a friend at work a couple days ago, and he was upset that he couldn't be more present. And I told him, I said, it's interesting you say that, because the fact you're even thinking about it is better than not thinking about it. There's so many
Mm-hmm.
people that aren't even thinking about being present. And there's so many people that aren't even attempting to be in the moment. And he's like, I can only do it for 2 minutes. And I said, well, you can either think about it as, damn it, I can only do this for 2 minutes, or you can think about it as, oh, I was present for 2 minutes, because both are true. It's just the way it's the way you see it. And that's what I've been trying to really do too, is like tap into those moments of where's my perspective? And there are so many truths. There are so many truths. You can just be mad that you did something for 2 minutes, or you can be happy that you did something for 2 minutes because it was 2 minutes longer than you did before. And it's about the journey. And I think you said it again, going back to what you said is like, what was it? I'm blanking for a second. Um, it went away from me.
Okay.
That's okay. It may come back, but yeah, talking about perspective, I think it's great to look at the perspective, because it's very layered, and I think they can all be true. I think they all are true. It just depends on the story you tell yourself, and the story you tell yourself is going to determine your next steps.
Yeah, for sure. And it's also going to determine, how I feel in this present moment. And
Because
so, mhm.
if you think about, oh man, I'm only being present for 2 minutes, do you think you want to try it again? Because you
Oh,
feel like it's an indicator that you feel like a failure,
oh,
and it's like, why do I even try this? I can only do it for 2 minutes,
yeah,
versus, wow, I did this for 2 minutes. Maybe I can do it for 3 next time.
yeah. And so this is actually touching on a very valid point, and I'll even share this. Obviously, by what I'm talking about, I'll even share this one on a podcast. So this is something I share often about uh, human development, and let's just say child rearing. It's like there's that quote about winners find a way to win, and losers find a way to lose. And so when it comes to human development, especially with little kids in early stages of life, there's like, I usually play activities or games because and my ultimate goal, especially with a young person, I want them to feel like a winner. And so it's not like I'm gonna obviously cheat or just make it super easy or whatever. But I want my ultimate goal when I'm interacting with kids, especially in games or competitive or just activities that they're doing. I want them to feel like a winner, because I'm already aware that as they gain more experience, their technique will increase. As their
Right.
exposure grows, their awareness of how to do certain techniques and things and this, that, and the third will increase. So as we explore different techniques, they'll learn. It's just learning how to, them feeling like a winner and having that ingrained in their psyche that they're a winner and that they can make it through any situation is of top importance to me. Because again, their brain, their attunement, their psyche is already going to be like fixed on, I know how to win, or I'm clear, I'm a winner. And so let me just figure out how to win. And if it's more kind of attuned to that feeling of like a loser or a failure, then they might get lost, like they'll be like, dang, again, they might prospectively see a scenario at some point in life and be like, oh, I'm failing or I'm losing. when really it's all perspective. Not really. You're actually winning. It's just like, again, it could be the fact that they're doing something, the fact that they tried out something new, the fact that they made an adjustment in life, or even if I take it to my own situation, it's like even the fact of me transitioning, taking 2 to 3 years to transition out of doing contract work into more passionate projects. That's still my process. Like I'm definitely 2, 3 years closer or more closer than I was before. And even in answering that lady in the coffee shop, it's like, yeah, if I had said that a few years ago, I probably would have been a little bit more, it would have stuck with me a little bit longer. But now it didn't linger as much because my belief in it wasn't as like, no, I got too much other stuff going on. I know that's not my complete picture. I just know that's the part she gravitated towards. And yeah, like I said before in the podcast, in a few years, that answer won't even be a part of the scenario. It's just it is right now.
Yeah.
And so and yeah. So it didn't and it even kind of applies to something you asked earlier about moving past a situation and moving past things someone might say or something like that. And I was like, well, it kind of stays with me. And so I guess even to that degree, yeah, to whatever degree of energy I give it is to the I guess it's to the amount of time that it stays with me. So yeah, usually it does take me a little bit longer to move past, and I guess it depends on how much someone says riles me up. Because yeah, once I get riled up, I don't know. That's a no. I don't know. It's a part of my nature. I'm aware of that. Like I'm aware I get riled up. I'm aware that there's there's passion there. there's levels of passion that can come out, and a part of my nature or behavior is that passion can come out and take a while to simmer down. So
one thing I want to mention about what you said was about the winning, and even what I heard and something that I've seen over the past few years of doing jiu-jitsu is like, that's kind of how you view it in jiu-jitsu. Even though you do notice, like at the end of games, people are supposed to shake hands. They have certain groups where, like when I used to play softball, at the end of the game, we would all put our hand out and walk across the field and slap everybody's hand and tell them good job, whether we win or lose. Now, I don't know how many sports do that now. I don't really watch NBA. Like sometimes you see people on other teams at the end of a game, if they're friends from different teams, you see them hug, but I don't think the whole team says, "Hey man, good job. Thanks for the time." But the truth is that without the opponents, there would be no winners. And you do what another thing that I heard, because I know a lot of people harp on like people feel like that kids are getting participation trophies and they get mad when they don't win nowadays. And I think that there's something to that, but I think it's different if you phrase it in a way, if you tell people, good job for showing up.
Right.
Because, I do yoga with Adrienne, and she always says, sometimes showing up is the hardest part. And every time you show up in life, people, there should be some acknowledgement there that you showed up, because sometimes that's the hardest part. Like wanting to be seen or being open to being seen on a podcast has been a little bit difficult for both of us, but it's a part of showing up, and it's different, and so I think that while maybe not everyone wins, and I think the problem people have is like trying to acknowledge the person with more skill and say that this person's a winner, but don't worry, the person with less skill is also the winner. There would be no, like, you can't win without someone else participating and being willing to struggle against you in some way. So in jiu-jitsu, that's something that's become more clear to me than in like softball and things like that, because there's literally two people, they're fighting each other. And at the end, it's just customary to respect the person you fought. Doesn't matter how how long it took you to tap them. If you tapped them in 30 seconds or you tapped them, it took you the whole 6 minutes, depending on the times, different times for different belts. But it would be very disrespectful if you didn't bow and say thank you, because you don't get to win if there's no one to beat. And
Right.
so there's a respect there. There's a thank you for putting your body on the line and showing up to compete against me, because not everybody shows up. Like, I competed once and I hated it because I lost and it really messed me up. And part of it did make me want to compete more, but I've quit for different reasons, because I'm just tired of like my body getting slammed around weekly, daily, all that stuff. And but other than that, you do put your body on the line, and not everybody does it. So in that respect, I do respect people that compete, because it's hard to get on the mat in that way and be visible and like show people, like, you risk getting choked in front of a bunch of people, which can be slightly embarrassing, and different things happen. So
Right.
it is highly respected, the people, just for competing. You gain a lot of respect in the sport for showing up a lot of times.
Yeah. And so, at least what this brings up for me, listeners, is that there's different winning looks many ways, there are multiple ways to win. And so, even this era of maybe even redefining, I guess, definitely on an individual level, but maybe on a collective, also, at the same time on a cultural level, of what does winning look like in our culture? What does winning, success? Obviously, this is an often topic in many conversations of what is success? What is, um, a certain pebble? Again, if I take this back to that conversation with the coffee shop owner, it's like maybe that was her interpretation. My contract work was her interpretation of success. Maybe when someone's asking me, what do I do? And I share, the primary thing I share, or there's more energy behind when I share something that's generating the most money, maybe they feel like that's more successful, or maybe even I subconsciously feel that that's more successful. So again, even a part of this might be me, is my process of putting more confidence and more energy and more weight, if you will, energetic weight or emotional weight on these things that matter and bring fulfillment and bring joy and finding ways to generate revenue. Again, that's, supporting ourselves is important, and revenue is important as well too. It just, again, at the same time, it's a process, and then even if I'm 2-3 years in, me telling myself, yeah, I'm a winner, I'm succeeding. Again, I'm showing up. And we've talked about this, in a couple of episodes before. It's like, even when I'm hosting something, I'm showing up,
Right.
and that's a part of the process. That's a part of winning in this. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so, yeah, those are things that have to even, collectively build in my own psyche to be more confident of, like, yeah, this is who I am. This is what I'm doing. This is my activity. This is what I do. And so,
Yeah.
again, the only piece is the only other piece really is the financial piece, which is, again, it's kind of unfolding, as things materialize or projects get completed. But other than that, this is what I do. This is how I am. You know?
Yeah, and I do think that a lot of times we do focus on as a culture on winning, as being successful and being money. But I think that's kind of like making it come full circle. I think that's what's disappointed me so much about
Oh,
like my response in that way, because I actually don't measure my success with money, because money is it fluctuates, it comes and it
mm,
goes. And what I respect myself the most from is my ability to tell the truth and be honest about things, because I want that same from other people. And so to me, the courage to be who I am and tell my truth, that's success to me, because I truly think that that's a way to tap into more success in the future. Just showing up confidently in my life and not worrying so much about what other people think or and how they will judge me. And so I do think that that's why I think at the end of the day, I was disappointed in myself,
Mm.
for not showing who and saying but actually not even just showing, but saying what I really wanted to say and tucking myself away. So actually, kind of funny because I never have done this on the podcast before, but I do have my cards here, and I was like, something just was like, what should I just want to flip over this top card on the deck, and
Uh-huh.
it says, "Don't dim to fit in. How are you dimming your light in order to fit in?" Is the card.
Wowza.
So that is actually, to me, that's truly what it is. It's dimming your own light. It's dimming your truth. And I was dimming my truth because theirs feels louder. Theirs
Mm.
feels more, it's taking up more space. So in order to not be seen, in order to not be targeted, I'm going to be quieter because their truth is louder. But their truth, and this is something that I go around and around with my sister. I want to say my sister, whatever. She's in my family. It's fine. Got many of them, so it's no picking on certain people, but she's very convinced that the truth is absolute. And I always tell her the truth is really your perspective. It's how you, I don't know, it's perspective in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, she's very uncomfortable with that because truth has been told to us our whole lives that it's absolute, when actually, to me, truth is momentary. Like I'm this right now, but I'm totally open to changing tomorrow in a lot of different ways. I'm totally open. Like I said, kind of going back to my career, it's kind of funny to me that I'm a mail carrier because to me, that's not my truth. That's just what I do. It's not who I am. And so I can take that jacket off whenever I want. But something about not telling people about what I actually know, my spiritual business, being a holistic spiritual coach, it actually reflects my values. I built this because it actually reflects my values and my character and what I believe in. So when I can't be truthful about that, it makes me feel like I'm not being truthful about what's really true to me and who I truly am. So I'm going to tell you this thing that's not going to bother you. I'm going to dim my light because I don't want it to bother you. I don't want to have that conversation. And truly, it's my way of it's kind of like letting their truth be more true than mine, or like letting that be the louder narrative, when really, if I'm being honest, one of my other values is unity. It's harmony, living cohesively among humanity, with us not having to all look or feel or be the same. And maybe that's my way I create harmony, is by not disrupting their vibes. Like, okay, I'm in y'all's vibe right now. I'll let y'all sing your song. But when I'm by myself, I sing a whole different song, just so y'all know. Because in their symphony, I would be very off key. So who knows? But yeah.
That's cool.
Okay. So does that conclude episode? Oh, we won't say which episode. Does that conclude the episode for today?
I believe so. Yeah. I don't nothing else is coming up in the moment. Like I said, I know we've fulfilled our time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we're good.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for listening. We will have in the description below how to follow Grace Accept Evolve. And we have an email available if you want to email any questions or any reviews. Also, on whatever app you find this podcast, please leave us a written review, give us some stars. And yeah, am I leaving anything out, James?
Not necessarily, but definitely, if anything that we shared today resonated, especially anything about levels of comfort. And I guess, you know what? It's so interesting because now that I'm talking about it, somehow it comes from this belief as well that, yeah, I can move through things at a comfortable pace. And so, or again, that's motivating for me. And I think more so it might again come from maybe at a youth or maybe just in the societal space of like people trying to force me to do stuff when I'm like, oh, if they had just asked or had just been more patient, it would have got done. Or it's just like, oh, this has to happen now. Da, da, da. But anywho, we'll save that for another episode. So if anybody has, just any insights or experiences things that came up for them that they want to share and talk about, or any reviews or, as Ray said, please do share. Please do, send questions, comments, and so forth. And we just thank y'all so much for listening and being here with us. So thank you.
Yes, thank you all. All right. Talk to you next week.
Yes.